Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Thank you so much for being here. This show was created to discuss life topics, to grow, challenge, and transform your thinking. Today, I have Jan Raeder here. Did I say that right, Jan? Is it
Yes, you
Raeder?
did. Yes.
Awesome. Offers well-being and education and guidance. She believes that education empowers people to do their own personal work. So through trials and tribulations in her own life, she takes her experiences and research and helps people manage stress, be joyful, joyful, and be positive daily. And that's what we're here about, right? We are here to discuss what it means to take what we've been through to impact somebody's life, Jan. Now, we've had a great conversation right before we got started here. So before we get all into that, why don't you give us a little bit more about who you are, Jan?
I am a seasoned martial artist. I'm retired now, but I trained for about almost 35 years and taught for about 30 years. Ran a business. I not only did I teach martial arts, but I also ran the business end of the martial arts. Decided to go back to school and get a degree. Actually, I wound up getting 2 degrees, a bachelor's and a master's related to well-being, and really wanted to teach people that wanted to become wellness coaches, because I really didn't necessarily want to be a coach, because I get frustrated easily with people as they give up on themselves. So
Right.
I tend to be a like I call myself, am an acquired taste when it comes to things like that, because I'll hold your feet to the fire, and I'm not necessarily, it's not necessarily what everybody wants, but anyway, so I decided to, try to educate people, so that way, you can be responsible. Here's the information. You can decide to do whatever it is you're going to do with it. And, I know that if you apply things that I share with you, you're going to make a difference in your life. So that's kind of, I guess, the long and the short of it, if you will.
So, I mean, I think that being a martial artist really does kind of give you that discipline too, right? That's probably where you go, I don't want people giving up on themselves, because in martial arts, at least the people I've known that really take martial arts very seriously, it's who they are, right? They don't play games. It's
No.
like, yeah, it's almost like military, right? Like,
Yes.
you got to get this done. We're not going to be kidding around. Why are you not giving it 100%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like that has a lot to do with your personality?
Oh yeah. Well, if you think about and when I say martial arts, I want to clarify, because this is a pet peeve of mine, that, there are many different types of martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not involved in Taekwondo, which is one that is sort of everywhere. And they like to use the word karate, and karate is Japanese and Okinawan, and Taekwondo is Korean. So,
Okay.
It's completely different type of art. Japanese Okinawan arts are, very much 50-50 hands and feet. They tend to be, if you think about the Japanese end of it, they tend to be very violent, very vicious. The Okinawan end is not as, but, and when you think about the word martial, it is militant. So
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
you're absolutely correct. And they, in Japan, they taught the art in school, going back to the early 1900s, they taught it in school to prep children for military service. So that is, you're absolutely right. You get your self-discipline, discipline. I mean, it starts with discipline first from your instructor, but then it becomes something you adopt yourself, because you just are driven to achieve your goal. You're not, like you said, I really like what you said, I'm not here to mess around. So
Right.
that's true.
Right.
But,
Now, did you, was it something like you fell in love with as soon as you tried it? Was it something you've been doing? Yeah. Yeah.
right. Immediately, because I've always been a physically active person. When I was in school, I was a gymnast, but I was getting injured all the time. I was getting, sprained ankles and whatnot. And I was never a person that enjoyed team sports. I was kind of I'm, believe it or not, which I think some people have a hard time believing, I actually am an introvert, and I'm not really hot up on team sports, which I used to tell my the parents of my junior students, it's great to have martial arts as a foundation for your kid, because they get a sense of themselves before they get into a team sport. Plus, when you're a martial artist, you're part of a team, you're part of the group that's in the class. But if you make a mistake, you're not, quote, letting the whole team down and, oh my gosh, we lost the game because you didn't catch the ball. So
right.
So it's a way to have a connection and have a tremendous camaraderie with other people, but it's not teetering on your performance, if you will. So yeah, I remember taking my very first intro class. There was 6 intros at the school that I eventually ran for the business wise. And I thought, oh my gosh, if I have to go 5 more, do I have to be like Bruce Lee or something? I'm probably dating myself to some people that are listening to this.
I love Bruce Lee.
I did. I was like, because I never watched a class. I just took the class because a friend of mine, I had a conversation. He was in a different art, and I kept asking him questions. Oh, well, if this happened, what would you do for this and this? So I didn't even realize I had a passion for it, a desire for it, curiosity. And then I met somebody that said, oh, this school is really good. So I went over there, I took the class, and then I was like, oh, I better watch a class before I, join. And so I did, because I was like really nervous. And I went, oh, okay. No, these people aren't perfect. I'm a perfectionist. So I was like, I can do this. So I started, and it was literally like I came home. Like, I had found my home. I had found my people, and I had found my home. And from that day on, I just, I don't know, it was like a snowball effect, if you will. And I did I have a national gold medal. I competed. I, did all sorts of, I did like probably 6 classes a week. I did all this crazy kind of training. So I was bit by the bug. For sure.
Yeah, it was probably really helpful too that you had some discipline already developed too, being a gymnast, right? So you had some of that discipline, so which is great. So tell me how the wellness education that you went to school for and all that, and the martial arts, how are you using that to impact people's lives?
Well, it's very interesting that when the layman thinks about martial arts, they always think about the violent part of it, that it's kicking and punching. It's, I hate to break this to everybody, but it's not what you see in the movies, because that's all choreographed.
Really? Dang it.
Yeah. It's all choreographed and staged, and, and so on. But it really is a vehicle for self-discovery. And it is, because I also have quite a bit of knowledge on the historical part of martial arts, because it is, very old. It's an extremely old art. It's not a sport. And you actually have to understand healing, and you have to understand well-being to be able to continue in the art itself. So, like when you think about samurais and battles at the time, they had to understand not only the killing aspects of it, but also the healing aspects of the art. So there's a lot of you have to have a lot of knowledge of traditional Chinese medicine, which of course deals with the healing and so on. So it just was a natural progression that when I decided to go back to school, because that was a goal of mine to get a degree, that one of the professors that I was working with was like, oh, well, have you ever thought about being a health coach? And I was like, no, because I went back to school in 2013, and this was really, we were just kind of coming into the healthcare system that we find ourselves in now, where, and even in the HMOs, where like a doctor gives you a diagnosis and they go, well, thanks a lot, have a nice day, good luck with that. And they don't have time, not that they don't have the knowledge to assist you, but they don't necessarily have the time to sit there and quote coach you and help you
Right. Right.
and gain an understanding. And I think when I did go back to school, I actually took a course. One of the courses I took in my graduate studies that I thought was interesting was, just sort of understanding the history of the medical practice and the doctor-patient relationship, going back to, the Renaissance period. So, it's kind of like where this white coat syndrome comes from. People just sort of lose their own voice when they're in front of the doctor. And
I didn't know there was
certain,
a name for that, but that is true.
right. And I certainly, I don't disagree that, that your doctor doesn't know more than you because they've gone to, 8 years of medical school, and then they've gone through a residency and so on and so forth. But in certain, in certain areas, they don't. Like I found out, which was really interesting because nutrition is a big area of mine that I have a passion for, is and I'm going to make this statement, and things have changed slightly now, but doctors only get 9 hours
Mm-hmm.
of
Yeah.
nutrition education.
Right.
And that old adage of we are what we eat. You're in the food business. You know what I'm
Right.
talking about. You are what you eat. I just looked at an interesting statistic today that 45% of cancers people are diagnosed with cancer diagnoses because of their lifestyle choices, and what they eat is one of those foundational pieces of that. So, I'm a firm believer in having a voice, and I think a lot of times you have to find the right doctor that is not intimidated by you having a voice, and that there's a way to talk to your doctor. There's a way to kind of collaborate with your doctor instead of just, having the white coat syndrome of, I talked to a woman a few weeks ago and she was like, oh, my doctor said this, my doctor said that, I'm like, okay. When was the last time they went to a seminar on something, So,
Right.
so I kind of, I kind of had this trajectory from understanding some of the importance of putting your own self first, meaning I have to take care. This is it. I have one body. That's it. I'm not getting another one. But at the same time, I have to be vigilant with what I do to it and what I put in it and how I move it. And I think that from the discipline aspect of the martial arts, it's a big deal to make a lifestyle change. Like if you have been tooling along in your life till you reach your maybe mid 40s to late 40s, which by the way, I'm well over 50 now. I'm headed towards 60. You're just going along about your business. And then all of a sudden you get a diagnosis and then you go, oh my gosh, what do I do now?
Yep.
And it takes a tremendous amount of discipline to change what you are doing.
It sure
to
does.
alter. And that's that's the main reason people fail, is because they for one, they want to change, but one, they don't know, they don't have tools to actually help them step by step, make those changes.
Right.
Or two, they don't know how to tap into the fire and the desire to make those changes. Do you know what I mean? Because we keep getting pulled back. You keep getting pulled back.
It's habits, right? Our old patterns and old habits that are ingrained in our brain that we have to basically like take it down and re-upload something new. It's
absolutely
it's serious.
You have to tear down the old scaffolding, and you got to put up new stuff. But that's a tremendous amount of work.
It sure is.
And people hate change. I was reading a book the other day. It's actually a business book, and it's called Gap Selling. If anybody's out there that's selling things, it's a great book. And and it's understanding the, the gap between what, what you have, what people need, whatever. But one of the things that the author said that was really stood out to me is that people will only change if what their current situation is so awful now that they want to get to the other end of it, whatever that is, whatever the gap is. They want to get through the gap, but they are willing to go through the pain that they're going to have to go through to get through the gap, to get through the change. So that the change, what's happening now, your status quo now is so uncomfortable and so awful that you don't mind going through the pain of changing.
Right.
So, and if you think about that,
that's so true.
It's painful to change.
It is. It's painful in a lot of ways, right? I mean, and it's also inconvenient.
Absolutely.
Right? Because nothing is going to be the same. Like you don't have, the same habitual patterns that we all have.
Right.
You have to like break the cycles and break addictions and break habits.
Right.
And to your point, Jan, I mean, that is a very hard thing to do. And that's why, having somebody who leads you, whether it's a mentor, a coach, or somebody in your life, is super important, right? I mean, it's the same thing with just using your martial art as an example, right? You can, if you're not there all the time, taking your classes, doing what you have to do, learning step by step what you have to do, you're not going to learn martial arts. You're just going to learn, to do it half-assed, and then you're not going to do it right. It's the same way, right? I mean, this, the story you were saying is my story, right? Going along, working your butt off all the time and not taking care of yourself. Then you hit your 40s and you're like, oh crap.
Right.
Oh crap. Things just got really serious. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Things got real for me real quick. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's, it really is something that, you have to have those aha moments, that long, hard look in the mirror. But at the same time, people don't necessarily want to do, like, you don't want to actually believe, if you will, that this is happening. And I think that, that's one of the things when I, like at first when we were talking before you officially started, I was saying about when you're an athlete and then all of a sudden you can't be who you are, it's not do what you were doing, because it really isn't just about an activity. It's about an actual who you are. If you can't be who you are, and that person is literally like dead, you're grieving that person. So that's the same type of thing as, oh, okay, I'm in my 20s and everything's all good. Let's say if I'm having an issue with my weight, I'll just cut down my calories and bang, 6 weeks later, I'm back at the weight I, was at before. Well, fast forward now, you're in your 40s. It doesn't happen that way. It doesn't go that way. Plus the added thing of, if I've gone up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down between my 20s and my 40s, I've just made it even harder for myself in my 40s. I mean, that's me. I mean, I struggled with my weight my whole entire life. So, I did, now my yo-yo dieting, my yo-yo weight, because I don't like that word, yo-yo dieting, but anyway, my yo-yo weighting, whatever weight I was, went up and down. It was like, it would go up and down over the course of several years. So it wasn't like that, that story they tell you that, oh, if you lose X amount of weight, you're going to gain back double that, you're going to gain that weight back and the other. That wasn't me. I would lose the weight and then it would slowly creep back on over the course of a couple of years. And I very rarely went way above what I was before. But that was my other trial tribulation that happened to me, is not only did I go into menopause, I was premenopausal, then I was menopausal, then I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which for those of you that are listening, it's a thyroid disorder. It's hypothyroidism, not hyper. So your thyroid is an organ that pretty much controls your entire body. So it's like it's like right here, that little butterfly thing that's at the center of your throat that controls pretty much everything. And
Yeah.
when that's screwed up, you got some problems. So, I had these things going against me. So when I talk about what you do in your 20s is totally different than what you can do later
Right.
in life. So you have to then switch the way you think about things. Like what we just said, I can't just tool along with what I've been doing. I now have to take 10 steps back, regroup, and go, okay, what am I going to do now?
Right.
And I have to completely change my strategy. I have to, and I'm not one of those people, and I know people like that. My people I'm related to are actually like this, where they just give up. They just go, okay, fine, whatever. This is the way I am. I'm going to be this way. I'm going to have, 10 hot fudge sundaes if I want, because I care,
Yeah. I mean, you get fatigued. That's what it is, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
I completely understand it. But at the same time, for me, I'm a fighter. I mean,
Right.
when I used to teach students how to spar in martial arts, I used to think to myself, well, okay, I had I kind of counted up the number of rounds I probably fought. I probably fought 20,000 rounds maybe in my time of fighting. And what is it? Malcolm Gladwell says, 10,000 hours of something make you like an expert at that. I mean, I certainly wouldn't call myself an expert at sparring, but I'm a fighter. I'm not laying down. I mean, I'm not giving up. But at the same time, you have to change your strategy. You can't just go, okay, well, I'm going to take away bread and I'm going to drop 30 pounds in a month.
You could when you were 20. Definitely not happening right now.
Right, exactly. When you're younger, it's like that. So getting back to what we said, what you mentioned about these habits, and I don't necessarily like to call them habits. I like to call them our realities. These are the realities that I'm having right now. This is my reality when I'm in my 20s. And when I'm in my 20s, I don't know what my reality is going to be when I'm in my 40s.
Right.
I mean, I can see it in other people. Like I used to tell my junior students in martial arts all the time. I used to go, how you can be completely different than any of your peers as you grow, as you get into junior high and high school. If you want to know how you can be completely different, I want you to listen up. And of course, they're always like, well, what is it? Like, I'm going to do some big secret. And I go, listen to people that are older than you and heed their advice.
Yep.
And that, my friend, will make you completely different than any other teenager that has ever lived on the planet. I go, which I was one of those people. I thought I knew everything,
Yep. And they do too. Too.
Right. And had I listened, I might, my whole existence might have turned out differently. But it's a matter of one, coming from a place of understanding for yourself, but not understanding and love. Because I really have a problem when people go, oh, well, I love myself. And I'm like, okay, yes, but if I had fairy dust that I could sprinkle over you and you could be whatever way you dream of being,
right?
I'm going to guarantee you're probably not going to choose the way you are right now. The majority of people want to be different. They want to, I don't know, be thinner, taller, quote, prettier. I want less wrinkles or whatever it is.
Right.
And so it's a matter of, I do love myself. I respect myself. I care about myself. But I also have to understand that sometimes when I decide to respect and care and love myself, I can't have the 12 hot fudge sundaes because that's not honoring, loving, and respecting myself and
Yeah.
taking care of myself. It's not.
I agree with that, Jan. I also agree that in that place, you also have to be honest with yourself. And,
Absolutely.
you can't just cover things up with I love myself, but not look at the reality of what things are. At least
Yep.
that's just the way my brain works.
Yep.
I have another platform, which I'm merging into Straight Talk, and it's called Memoirs of a Fat Girl. And I
Mhm.
remember when I came out with it, because it's my weight and health journey, what I'm going through right now in my life. And somebody said, fat, like PHAT. I'm like, no, like FAT. They're like, you use the word fat? I'm like,
Right. Yeah.
yes. I
Yeah.
remember my friend, I've said this before, my friend says, but you're not fat, you're big boned. I said, I'm not trying to lose bones. I'm trying to lose fat. Okay.
Right. Right.
Let's just
Exactly.
call it what it is. Why do we keep doing
Exactly.
that? You know?
Right.
And they were
Right.
like, oh, okay. But it's like,
Yeah.
it's not fat shaming. I'm not putting myself down or putting anybody down. I look at things for what they are.
Right.
Let me deal with them and move
Right.
on. You
Right.
know? Exactly. So I agree with you.
Right. Well, and if, like, as I mentioned earlier about that 45% of cancers are coming from lifestyle choices, obesity is number one
I
with
know.
that.
Yeah.
So, that's what I was saying about the magic fairy dust over there. I mean,
Right.
you can
Right.
sprinkle it. I'm the same. If I
Right.
could sprinkle that magic fairy dust over myself too, I would look like I did, 14 years ago. I'd want to be
Right.
that weight I was 14 years ago. So it's not a sense, and I will qualify by saying you can never get there if you hate yourself. You can never get there. Nothing will happen if you are doing it from a place of hating yourself.
That's so
So
true.
you have to find the balance of I love myself, but I'm not going to fall prey to, oh, you can have that bag of chips because
Right.
I love myself. I
Right.
can't, and I didn't
And
really
actually,
necessarily.
that's not even a loving act to
It's not.
yourself.
No,
But
that's
we think it is, so we use that as a
right.
comfort tool. And I know, because I'm getting out of that habit myself, right? Or
Yep.
that those just patterns,
Right.
that
Right.
self-sabotaging patterns,
Right. And
But I agree. Yeah.
that's one of those things that, and I didn't necessarily plan on this going where it's going
Yeah.
right now. But it's one of it's one of those health issues that happens. It's the same thing with, like, let's switch gears and go physical exercise. And when you're talking about somebody holding your feet to the fire over it, I mean, we all know now. I'm not saying anything that anybody doesn't already know.
Right.
You should be moving at least 30 minutes a day. Our bodies are designed to move. They're not designed to be sedentary. That is not how they were, we were made up to do that. And people know that. And they don't do it.
Right.
And they cannot, it may not be that, oh, well, I love myself, so I'm going to sit here and watch a movie and eat a,
Yeah.
pint of
Well,
ice cream.
I mean, we're
It's
loving ourselves to death is what we're doing.
well,
We're
it
loving
absolutely
ourselves to death, because
right. But
you're right. I mean, it's become a thing where going to work out is a chore.
yeah,
Eating healthy is not even an option. If you have a salad in front of you, or fast food or cake, you go for the fast food.
right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we're loving ourselves to death, literally.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely, 100%. And that's one of those things. I was just talking to a gentleman the other day, and he, we had this conversation about, one of the questions I asked him, because when I work with people, I have, as I did for you, I have you have a little profiler that just, in really short questions, just kind of gives you a minute to kind of look at it and go,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
what do I need to change? I need to
Yeah.
change some things.
Like,
And,
one of the
and you,
questions, Jen, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but one of
that's
your
what,
questions was, do you move 30 minutes a day? And my answer was no. And when I saw my assessment come back, I said, well, this is going to change. So I
right.
did. So I
Oh,
did.
good.
So yeah. So I walk in the mornings, and then I work out in the evenings, whether it's yoga, stretching, or actually I do boot camp 3 to 4 times a week.
Yeah.
I just did an athletic conditioning class. I want to get back into martial arts. I did karate for like almost a year and a half, and I
Good for you.
loved it.
Good for
It
you.
was something I really loved. And being obese is a challenge, because it's also here, right? So
Mhm.
it's also like, well, I can't go back to martial arts. I'm too overweight now, and I can't do this because I'm too, overweight to do that. I did an athletic class. I
Mhm.
can't do an athletic class. I'm not an athlete, but I went anyway,
Right.
you know?
Yep.
So
Yep.
That's really
It
good,
is.
Jan, that you do that.
It is out of, you're absolutely right what you said earlier about getting out of your own way. It really is. I mean, I'll tell a little quick story about a student we had at the karate school, and she weighed, I think, 400 and some pounds when she started training, and she just wanted to take private classes because she was too embarrassed to be in a group
Right.
class. And she came in her first day. She came in with a bag from McDonald's that had 2 Big Macs and a large fry in it. And she was like, I gotta eat something before I work out. And we're like, you're not eating that. So she decided to go all in with training. And we monitored her diet. We helped her she wound up losing, I think it was like 280 pounds.
Wow.
And I mean, over a course of amount of time, she was,
Good
she
for
actually
her.
she was actually an RN, and she had a dream of becoming a physician's assistant. So she went back to school. She became a physician's assistant. She trained and she kept that weight off. So it was a matter of, like I said earlier, the amount of pain that she was going to have to go through was worth it to get to the other side.
Yeah.
And I think when you have somebody that you feel comfortable with pushing you, and that's another part about, like, I've been kind of doing sort of this dissecting things from the martial arts, like what I learned from the martial arts. I've been kind of writing things down. And one of the things that, when I mentioned earlier about sparring, that I fought all these rounds, one of the things that it teaches you not to take things personal. Because when I'm like, if you and I were standing, you trained for a year and a half. I'm not sure if you got to sparring at all when you trained, because it depends on the school that you go to. For us, you had to train for at least a year before you wound up sparring with anyone. But anyway, when you're standing in front of somebody else, like if you and I were going to spar together, I don't know what happened to you today. You don't know what happened to me today. Right. So once the technique starts flying and we start hitting each other and whatever, and I don't know, maybe you're angry about something or what have you, and maybe you hit me a little bit hard. Well, I can't assume that I know what's going on in your head. So through that activity, I learned how to not take things personally, because it's just air between the two of us. And I only can control what I think about from my own perspective. I can't put on you what I think you're thinking. So the minute that I start, how like you meet somebody and they go somewhere and they go, oh, well, that woman or that receptionist or that cashier, they were such a, they were so nasty.
Yeah.
Like, well, that's you putting something on them that you have no idea. You don't know what happened to them before they interacted with you. And what does it matter to you anyway? Why are you taking it so personal? So when you learn to kind of almost detach a little bit from that and kind of not take it personal, when somebody is there giving you feedback, giving you, most people don't like the word criticism, giving you feedback, then instead of it taking it personal, you decide to go, okay, I'm having this reality moment with myself. I'm being real. I'm using the word fat, F-A-T, you know what I mean? Like whatever it is you're doing for yourself, and you're going, and this person is trying to help me. They're not, saying I'm a terrible, I never once said to this woman who brought in the bag of McDonald's food, oh, you are a terrible person because you brought that in here. Right. I just went, that is not going to get you to that goal. Right. If you want to become a martial artist and lose a bunch of weight, you're not going to get there by eating that.
That's right.
You're just not. That's right. It's a reality. So it's nothing personal. I didn't say you're a terrible person.
But she had to make that decision, and she did. And 280 pounds later, it showed that her making that decision is what really saved her life, because at the rate that she was going, she would have probably died from obesity. So I see that you do love, and that's what I liked about even our first conversation. Like, you're really, really good about giving us the information that we need. And I like that little assessment too. That was really good. And I appreciate the email that you sent me afterwards, because I did watch the YouTube that
Oh,
you
good.
sent me about fear. I did read the article, all of that. So, that was very helpful. So before I wrap up, I really do want my audience to know where they can, get in contact with you and follow you, and also get this amazing information as well, because this is just a little bit of
Yeah.
what you do,
Well,
so.
the best way right now, because I'm kind of in transition with my branding, that personal branding.
Yeah.
The best way
Right.
to get a hold of me actually is through LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. People can message me there.
It's
The
just
other
under
part,
Jan Raeder, right?
yep.
Yep.
The other part, since we spend a lot of time on the physical part of
Yeah.
ourselves, I really have a passion also for the mental and spiritual part of well-being. So when I sent you that information, the difference between wellness and well-being is,
Yeah.
is more of your psychological, spiritual, emotional, and then your physical is more toward the wellness end of things. And the two are important for each other,
They
because
really are. You need them both.
yeah, physically you feel better, then emotionally you're going to feel better. If emotionally you feel better, you're going to work on caring about yourself physically. But I like to break things down into theoretical practices, because I think when people understand the scaffolding of what holds us all up, it helps you to kind of take this huge abstraction of, oh my gosh, I feel terrible, or I just feel like I'm stuck, which there's a term in psychology, positive psychology, for that. It's called languishing, where you're just kind of going through the motions. And it's not depression, and it's not, not depression. It just, you're kind of baseline. So you want to go above baseline. And part of what helps is to understand that there are actual tested practices and little things that you can do that can make a difference in your daily life on feeling better. It's kind of like, if you work out 30 minutes a day, physically you're going to feel better. And getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep is going to make you feel better. If you're eating more fruits and vegetables and less animal products, you're going to feel better. All of these types of things. But there's also things that you can do from the emotional, spiritual side of things too. So, and when I say spiritual, I'm not talking about religion. I'm just talking about finding meaning for yourself and things like that. So, I really like to have conversations with people and give them some direction that they can decide what to do with it. And by the way, if there's other things that you want to know more about, I would love to give you more information, because there's so much out there, and
There is. Thank you. And yes, and you are like a wealth of knowledge. So I really am excited about people connecting with you as well. And I'm glad that we connected as well. I think we connected through LinkedIn as well. And I love your message, and I love what you do. I love the little survey that you sent, because it really did make you think. And that's what, when I read that, I was like, oh shoot, I don't do 30 minutes a day. I really need to, even though like you kind of know, right? You kind of know you're supposed to, but when you're looking at it on paper, you're like, okay.
Right. Yeah, because
this doesn't look good. Next time I'm saying yes to this question.
That's right. Well, you go like this. Everybody knows what you've got to do, but you just need to have a roadmap to do that. And you need to have somebody that says, like you said, using that word that nobody likes to use right now.
Right.
And the reason they don't like to use it is because they've attached emotions to it. Like I'm somehow bad. And, here's just a little piece of information that I like to use myself, is that, how everybody's always afraid of their scale. Like, oh my God, I don't want to get on the scale. If you put notes all over for yourself, and this is the note that you put everywhere, your weight is just a data point. All it is data, so that you know where I'm at now, and where I need to be, or where I want to be, so it doesn't judge me. It doesn't define me. It's a piece of data.
Right.
That's it.
That's so good.
And the other little scientific piece of information: always weigh yourself on Wednesday. That's the best
Okay.
day to weigh yourself, is on Wednesday.
WW, Wait
There's been
Wednesday.
there's been several studies that have been done that that's the best day to weigh yourself. First thing in the morning, after you've gone to the bathroom, don't eat anything, don't do any working out, because that's going to give you your best idea of what it is, and do it
That's
once
good
a
to
week.
know.
Yeah, do it
Okay.
once a week.
That is
Once
good
a
to
week.
know.
Yeah, because
Awesome.
you fluctuate so much.
Yeah.
So once a week, and it's put that on your scale. Neena, I want you to have that note on your scale that says your
Yeah.
weight is just a
Just the
data point.
data. Yeah.
It's just a data
Thank you.
point. So I hope
Jan, you're the best. Yeah, this was great. This was
I hope
great.
you enjoyed it. It was so fun. I really appreciate that you wanted to include me in this. And we didn't even get into the grief of athletes, and we could do that another time, but because
We sure can. We really can, Jan. I
that's
would love
really
to have
important.
you back on. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
it
really
is
important.
important. It is important. It is important. And, the grieving process of that is very important to talk about too, because I do have a lot of athletes that I interview.
Yeah, yeah,
And they talk about that, how they really lost a sense of self when they
yeah,
lost,
yeah,
whether they tore an Achilles or whatever
yeah,
whatever happened, that you're just like, that was hard for them. So I'd love to
yeah.
touch on that on the next one.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. When we talk
Yeah.
about that, we'll break down, we'll break down the grief, because everybody
Yeah,
knows all the stages of grief, and they do apply to
they do.
anyone that has had a life change. And it doesn't only just apply to athletes. I mean, it can
Yeah.
apply in other regards too. So
Yeah. So next time
it's
we talk, I'd like to touch on that and the spiritual aspect of what it is that you guide people with and teach them. That'd be great.
yeah, it'll
All
be
right,
great.
good.
Well, thanks, Neena. Have a fabulous weekend.
You too. And guys, don't forget to follow Jan. I'm going to make sure that I link everything below so that you can go ahead and follow all of our information. I will put the show notes in there so you can read what we talked about. Please go ahead and contact her because it was great. I contacted her and she immediately sent me a little survey. I took that survey. It was an eye opener, and then she sent amazing information. It was just a great experience. And I want you to have that same experience. So don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Make sure that you share away and leave a comment and a review. That helps us grow. And I will see you very, very soon with another episode. This is Neena Perez. This is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Until next time.